In this video, I'm going to be telling you all about the John Deere 652R stand-on QuikTrak mower. What's up guys, this is Brent with Western Equipment, and if you are not familiar with stand-on zero-turn mowers, then this video will definitely answer some questions for you. Now, the stand-on QuikTrak mowers, as John Deere calls them, are typically going to be commercial grade mowers. And the great thing about these stand-on mowers is going to be the versatility. So as you can see here, instead of having a full sit-down zero-turn mower like you saw in the beginning there, you stand on this mower to ride it. It's going to be a lot more compact than what a zero-turn is, and it's going to be great for those versatile options when you have small patches of grass, lots of commercial jobs. Just overall a very unique mower. So let's go ahead and start out by talking about our model number here. The model number on the QuikTraks is going to be different than what we see on most John Deere mowers. As you notice, there is not a letter here to start before we get into the numerals. So we're going to start here with a 6, and this is going to be our indicator that this is a QuikTrak or stand-on mower. Our next two numerals are going to be the deck size. So for instance, on this model, we have a 52 because this deck is going to be 52 inches wide. You could also have a 36 here, a 48, or a 61, depending on which model you are looking at. And then lastly, our letter here at the end is going to be our trim level indicator. And this is going to be very similar to other John Deere models, where we could have an E for the base model, M for the mid-spec, or R for the most loaded out model, as we have here. Now, talking about the engine, what you will have on this machine is going to be a 23.5 horsepower Kawasaki engine. If we look over here on the right-hand side of the engine, you'll see right on top the plaque that says this is a 23.5 horsepower John Deere. But if we go back to the leaning pad here on the operator station, raise that up, look through this little hole to the right, we can see the sticker on the back of the engine that does confirm that this is a Kawasaki. So this is going to be in the FX series of engines, meaning that it is going to be in that top tier commercial grade of lawnmower engines. And a good indicator of that is looking for this large air filter sitting on top that is freestanding alone and not built into the top of the engine housing. Now, one great thing about the engines on these John Deere QuikTrak mowers is just how open and easy it is to service this engine. Everything is out in the open, easily exposed, making that service very quick, very simple. So starting over here on the right hand side, we'll go ahead and point out some of those service points. And over here, we're going to have our fuel filter. Right in front of that, mounted on the side of the engine, we will have our vacuum fuel pump. Next, going in front of that, we are going to have our first spark plug. Now, this is a V-twin engine, meaning that it has 2 cylinders and 2 spark plugs. So we're going to have a corresponding one over around here on the left-hand side. Now, before we move over to the oil system, like I said, the air filter right here on top, very easy to gain access to. Also, it is very easy to open this air filter. We're simply going to flip open these 2 clamps here, pop this top off. That's going to expose the dual filter element system, meaning that you're going to have an outer and an inner. So whenever we're going to change that, very, very simple. And then also we'll notice that here on the cap, we are going to have this dust valve on the end of the cap that every day before we go out to mow, we want to go ahead and just give that a squeeze to make sure and get out all of the larger particles that collected in that dust valve rather than made it to the filter. Now, whenever we move over to this left-hand side, our oil system is going to be back here to the back of the engine. First thing that we'll see here is going to be our oil cap. This is also going to double as our dipstick. So if you see here pulling this out, this is our dipstick. Right below that is going to be our oil filter. And then right below that, we are going to have our oil drain system. Now, if you are familiar at all with the John Deere Z900 series, this is going to be the same type of drain system here. This is going to be a petcock valve. And right here at the end, you're going to have this hex nut. It's also going to have a line in it to where you can open that with a flathead screwdriver. But whenever we need to drain this oil, we're simply going to loosen up the end of that valve, let that come out. Then we'll see here that we have a nipple that comes off the side of this valve and a hole down in the frame where the oil can drain out right there. We can slide our oil pan underneath, catch all of that, virtually having a mess-free oil drain system. Very nice right there. And then also over here on the left-hand side, if we look up and above the engine, right here on the back of the operator panel, we will see a hydraulic filter. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about the hydraulic system here in a minute, but just know that you do have this spin-on hydraulic oil filter that is going to need to be changed from time to time. And then when we move to the outside of the unit here, this will be one of our last service points, but very important. This cover here, we can simply twist off this knob, pull off this top panel, and then that gives us full access to the battery. So very nice that it is over here on the side. It's where you can easily access it. We don't have to get underneath anything, raise a seat. It's right there, easy to access on the side. So like I said, the serviceability of this engine, overall phenomenal. It's just a great setup for either the commercial guy or the residential. Now, talking about our drive system, what you're going to have here is two large Hydro Gear hydraulic pumps with fans, and to gain access to those, we are going to have to raise up on our leaning platform here, and that's going to give us access to the motors right here, and also give us access to our hydraulic reservoir, where our fill is going to be right here on top, and then our sight gauge, so we can see what that hydraulic fluid capacity is at right here on the tank itself. And then to get full access to these motors, we actually have a panel right here where we can remove this turn handle, pop that loose, take this panel completely out, and then we gain underneath access and full access to these pumps. So if we have any leaks or things like that with our hydraulic system, we do have a very easy way to get to these pumps. Now, these are crucial on these machines, and it's crucial to make sure that we have our hydraulic fluid at the right capacity, as these are the main driving motors of this machine. They're going to be what powers your wheels, and so it's very important that we have access to these, know where to look whenever we're looking for such things as leaks or if we're having trouble with our driving motors. So right there, easy access, one panel to remove, one turn handle, and there it is. Now also, while we're underneath here, one thing to keep in mind when we're thinking about those services is we do have a daily service chart right here on our hydraulic fluid reservoir, and it's always on board, so we can make sure and check those things out every day before we get started. The operator station is obviously going to be different than any other mower you've been around if you haven't been on one of these stand-on mowers. So what you'll see when you walk up to the machine, you'll see a large foot platform here. This is going to be suspended on a spring system here to help with the ride of this mower. And then you're also going to have, of course, your large leaning pad right here, and this is meant for you to put your body weight on to help stabilize yourself whenever riding this mower. Now, this is going to be a heavily padded and also an insulated pad on the back side to keep that heat from the engine making its way to you, making for a comfortable ride. And then also, whenever you step on here on the left side, on the inside of the fender well here, is where we're going to have our deck height adjustment. This is going to be on a simple pin system that's going to go from 1.5 inches down to 5 inches. Then they have lines going out to each individual hole. So all we have to do to pick that height is simply pull that pin out and then put it to the desired height that we want. And that is going to lock itself into place. Now, as far as letting that deck down to that cutting height, over here on my right hand side, you're going to see this black lever, and this is going to be on a pull release system. So you cannot just simply push this lever forward to let the deck down. It does have a lock, so we have to pull back on this lever. You'll hear it unlock, and then we simply let that lever down, and then it goes down to our preferred cutting height. And then to get that to come back up, this is all going to be spring assisted, since as you see, we have the engine sitting right on top of our deck frame here. We simply raise up on this lever, pull it back into the lock position, and then there it is locked up and into place. Now also over here on your right hand side is going to be your 5.5 gallon fuel tank. It's going to have the large opening here for fuel. It's going to have a tethered lid with that 3.5 inch opening, so very easy to get fuel in and out. And then right on top, you are going to have your fuel gauge. Very easy to see here from the operator station. Now we move up on top, some of the things that we're going to see is going to be our hour meter here. Then right below that, we will have our key switch. To the left of that, we are going to have our blade engagement or PTO engagement. So simply up for on, down for off. Right in the middle of the machine, we will have our throttle adjustment right here. And then to the left of that is going to be our choke. Now, in some of these machines, you can get an EFI model, and if you do, you will not have this choke. But on this model here, it is going to have that choke lever that we have to pull up sometimes for cold starts. And then whenever we get ready for that machine to start, we simply push that down to disengage that choke. Now, right on top is going to be our 2 control levers. Now, these are going to function just like a normal 0-turn would. The right-hand lever controls the right wheel. The left-hand lever controls the left wheel. So whenever we're using this, when we're going forward, you'll notice you have a bar in front of our levers and a bar behind. So the easiest way to do this is just to use this front lever here, this front support, as a stability factor and something to hold on to whenever we're using our thumbs and the bottoms of our hands to move these levers. And then same thing here, when we move to the back, we're going to put our thumbs and back of our hands on this back lever and use our fingers here when we're going in reverse. Now, also over here to the left is going to be our parking brake. Now, this is just simply going to be a tire engaging parking brake. So if we look down here at the tire, you're going to see 2 claw grips, one on each wheel here. And whenever we release this parking brake, those grips come off of the tires. And when we pull it up, those engage the tires and act as our parking brake. So before we talk about the frame and the deck, we'll go ahead and start this thing up so you can hear how it sounds. Now I'm going to raise up on my choke lever, turn my switch. Push down on my choke, then I'll go ahead and raise up on my throttle. Release my parking brake. And then drive this just like we would a 0-turn. So only pushing on my right hand stick, we're gonna go left. Pulling back. And if I push on my left hand stick, this will turn us to the right. Both together, going in reverse. Both forward, going forward. Very smooth when going up and over hills, and you can utilize the leaning platform here to make sure when you're going down hills you've got plenty of support. We'll go back up and over the hill here. Just a very smooth riding machine. And like I said, with that pad, very comfortable. A little bit different to get used to if you've never been on one, finding those ways to make sure and balance your weight out. But with the pad and with the suspended foot platform, you can get a very, very nice ride out of these machines. Now, when talking about the frame and deck on these machines, one thing to keep in mind is that everything is going to be made out of heavy duty steel tubing on the frame. As you can see here, we have the bolt-on front casters here in the front with the cast iron front casters here right at the wheel. So the nice thing about this bolt-on is that if we do happen to have any damage happen to this front set of casters, this can be easily replaced. Then we're going to have the heavy duty steel frame tubing running all the way out the rear of the machine. You're also going to have a few grease zerks here on the frame. So you're going to have grease zerks here on your front casters. You're also going to have some here on our pivot points of the deck raise and lower. And then also you will have greasable spindles. Now on this deck itself, you are going to have large metal shrouds here that go over our spindles. And I'll take those off here in a minute to show you that, but that is a nice feature just to the build of this mower. And then also along the frame here, we are going to have 4 tie down points. So you'll notice here, right behind your front casters, you have these large loops here on both sides. And then at the rear, you're going to have these loops as well. So whenever we're talking about putting these machines on a trailer, if we're that commercial operator or even that residential customer that's going to be taking this from place to place, you do have built-in tie downs on this machine to make sure and keep your machine sturdy. Now, the deck itself is going to be a fabricated 7-gauge steel deck. So this means that this deck will have welding points on it. Now, on all other John Deere mowers, what we're typically going to see is a stamped deck deck, but this one is going to be fabricated and welded just to help to make these more compact. Whenever we're a 52-inch deck, trying to get that as close to 52 inches wide to match the actual cutting width is huge when we're talking about the maneuverability of these mowers. So therefore these are fabricated. Nice thing is they are going to have anti-scalping wheels all along the front here, both on the outside and in the middle, and these are going to be dual captured to help with the strength of those anti-scalping wheels. Now, like I talked about, we do have these covers here on top that are removable. We have simply 2 twist knobs on each one on the front, one on the rear, so we can loosen those up, open this up, and then that is going to give you access to your spindles, those grease zerks on those spindles, and then also access to your 2-belt system. So on this mower specifically, you are going to have 2 belts that run your blade system. Generally what we have is 1 deck belt and 1 drive belt, but on this mower you're going to have 2 deck belts that you need to make sure and be watching for service, and no drive belt going back to the motors because those are going to be ran off of the hydraulic pumps. But overall, very nice heavy built deck. This is also going to be a floating deck, which is going to give you a lot of wiggle room there whenever we're going up and over bumps and hills, things like that, to give a very nice smooth cut. And you can see that it is floating as it does sit on these chain hangers. Here in the front you can see them, and then in the back these are a little less exposed, but you do have those hangers there in the rear as well. Tires are obviously going to be a huge thing whenever we're talking about mowers. The good thing is on the QuikTrak mowers, what you're going to have in the front are going to be the flat free front casters, so you do not have to worry about flats there in the front. They are going to be the large rib tires there to give you plenty of support there in the front no matter what obstacles we're going to tackle. And then at the rear, on a lot of these machines, you are going to have the option of going with the Michelin wheels like we have on this machine, which is going to be an airless option and also a flat free option as well. But you can also go pneumatic on these tires as well, depending on your operation and what you'd like to have. You do have those options. So lastly, let's talk a little bit about specs, warranty, and price. So as far as specs go on this machine, talking about speed, you're going to have a forward speed of 9.6 mile an hour, a reverse speed of 3.5 mile an hour. We talked a little bit about fuel, but just remember you are going to have a 5.5 gallon fuel capacity there on the machine. And then whenever we're talking about dimensions, that's always going to be a big one when we're talking about having these machines, fitting them into places, fitting them on trailers width wise. What we're looking at on this 652R with the shoe down is right at 66 inches wide. You're also going to be 66 inches in total length, and then 47 inches to its highest point here at the top. And then we're also going to come in at a weight of right around 927 pounds. Now, if we're looking at a sit-down zero-turn mower as compared to one of these, you are going to see a big decrease in weight, which is also sometimes a big seller on a QuikTrak mower. A comparable zero-turn in the commercial grade in a sit-down style could be around 1,300 to 1,400 pounds, so saving that 500 pounds is huge. Now, warranty on these machines, you are going to have a 2-year bumper-to-bumper warranty on these machines. And as far as price goes, if we're looking at a machine with the pneumatic tires, we're looking around $13,000 list, and then a machine with the wheels, we're looking right around $14,000 list. So guys, I hope you liked this video. I hope this helped you out, and if it did, we just ask you to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you guys need any John Deere parts at all, make sure you go check us out at 247parts.com. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Hey guys, make sure to check out this cool video and this one. Buy your parts right up here and subscribe right here.